Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Jabran Nassif. Thank you for joining us in this exciting virtual LinkedIn Live audio event. This is our third one, so thank you guys for joining us. And this is a good one today. We're going to talk about pop-up immersive experiences. What are they? We know that word immersive is all over the place, but we're going to really get to a core focus and learn about pop-up immersive experiences. And we have some very special guests today, Rainy Fu and Stasia Pfeiffer joining us today. So thank you guys so much. But let's first do that introduction. So we'll start with Rainy and then go to Stasia. I kind of want to learn a little bit more about you guys and for our audience as well.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Rainy. I'm a creative director and also a founder of Design Never Sleeps, which is my own experiential design studio. I'm a senior art director currently working at Spotify. And just a little background about me. So, my parents, they are both chefs, they're cooks. So, I came really from as an immigrant into the US, and my thing that they taught me was to really get heads down in craft and to really focus on teamwork and craft. And that's how I got into this field. When I was 17, I started doing decals and walls in my design in the school that I was studying in. So I ended up designing like the whole fifth floor of my building, Polytechnic, which includes like the lecture halls, the computer labs, everything in the building. And that was before I really know what pop up and experiential design was. So back in the day, and then now my second opportunity came. I was working on luxurious brands events like Lexus, Audi, Zenith watches, Hermes, Givenchy, LVMH, really like to name a few for a luxurious brand. And that really opens me up to a brand new door. And now I'm working at Spotify for the last 8 years, specializing in motion graphics and events. And I started as a seventh hire in the team, and now we are a strength of 110 of us at Brand and Creative. So I'm really pleasure to be here to be speaking to everyone about pop-up experiential events. I have about 60 events under my belt at this moment, and looking to do more and more so in this field.
Great, thank you.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Stasia Pfeiffer. I'm from Wisconsin originally, and I started out in the live events world. I did a lot of music festivals, concerts, nightclubs, and started out kind of in the touring world where there were a lot of electronic artists who were coming through doing projection mapping and building kind of crazy sets. And so, working as a club promoter, I started to see more and more of these kind of three-dimensional shows, which were not just taking place on the stage, but were extending the experience out into the audience. So I started to work more and more kind of in that world, coming over to Europe and getting involved in some very creative and progressive bands. And I got really into the technology behind it. So I wanted to learn how to program lights, how to run video, how to run video wall, how to, set up projectors, how immersive sound was working. So my entry point into immersive experiences was really as an AV technician, where I was, all the way from, in the very beginning, starting out as just kind of a grunt on like 300-person crews, loading in a stadium show to eventually managing bigger installations, then stage managing. And when COVID hit and everything sort of shut down in the live events world, I had just been studying a lot of lighting design and projection mapping. I'd done my first tour kind of as an operator and running kind of projection and was really interested in kind of going further with that. I'd just started to learn about immersive audio. I'd been studying with like deep D&B audio technique and acoustics, learning about their concert touring, immersive audio systems and spatial sound and how that could be used to really integrate the audience into more of a story with the band. And I found an immersive storytelling master's degree. And so that brought me over to London and I studied at Royal Holloway That was a wonderful experience during lockdown when all of the rest of the industry was kind of on pause. And I got to work with Story Futures, Audience of the Future, National Film and Television School, and kind of got involved in virtual production, virtual reality, and ended up working here in London with some really wonderful companies such as Dimension, DNEG, Lux Machina, and currently Squint Opera. So I've been around some really groundbreaking projects the past few years, and recently founded my own company in immersive experience creation.
Very nice. You guys have a lot of amazing experience, and we know we always talk about this in AV or tech, like the hands-on experience, right? Getting your hands on the physical experience, and then just becoming super creative, and that expands into so many different opportunities, which is really cool to hear. So thank you for those introductions. We're gonna get straight into it with some great topic points because I know a lot of people are talking about immersive experiences. So let's first start, and we can kind of feed off of each other on this question. So let's go cut down to the basics. Like, what is an immersive experience? Like, what is the the groundwork for an immersive experience, and what is it to you guys as well? So let's start with Rainy this on this one, and we can kind of go from there.
Sure. Yeah. I think there's a really few key points to create an experience, immersive experience. The first thing that I've always focused on is really like the sensory engagement. How do we create a realistic and engaging environment that includes all five different senses? I know that's like easy to say, hard to do, but like for example, I in the rap party for 2023 that I worked with Spotify to create like a 360-degree video and sounds around to create like an environment where fans, like top fans, can come in to experience that as part of being a not just a consumer base, but also a creator in the space that we create. So I think the first major thing is knowing that how consumers experience events have shifted. It's more about creating a custom experience economy at this point, and to let them be engaged in the event space rather than giving them what they wanted to see, or but it's more so getting them involved in as a creator person. So one of the examples is for like for the country music festival event, just to give like a case study. The thing that I always say is when you target everyone, you really target to no one. And for that, it was a Spotify house, a 3-day event at Country Music Festival in Nashville. So this year, it's for anyone that's a big country fan out here, is our 50th anniversary of country music. And Spotify House has been in there for the last 4 years. So this year we want to create an experience where we're just welcoming 70 plus performers in country music, but as well as expecting 20,000 fans for consumers and partners and artists to come together and enjoy the biggest names in country music. So how do we create the brand? First of all, it's also to be visually stimulating. As an art director for this opportunity, I curated a theme called Neon City. So neon, is a big part of traditional honky tonk ambience, and we try to create like this concept that ingeniously blended in traditional way together with the modern elements of country music. So it really pays homage to the genre roots in traditional country music while capturing like the energy and vibrancy of modern country through the use of neon lights. So how do we use that as a theme to work back and create an experience for audience is to do and it includes everything. It includes like the fabrication, the way the materials that we can play with. How do we create like a place where they can be immersed in, And that starts off with really having a building a strong theme and narrative and the value proposition. It is supposed to have, it's not supposed to just look beautiful, but to represent its fusion of modern sound and themes. And it's supposed to have a roots in the concept and has purpose, and it's not just like something that is just aesthetically nice in that sense. So that always is a very big part of how I create immersive experience. And the other thing is also rooting in data, really. Like, working at Spotify, it has always been about data driven and how do we use data to create uh, an experience, right? And speaking about data, so it's all about understanding what the audience is going towards. And culture happens outside of Spotify. Like, I don't create what the culture and what people want, what Gen Z is looking for, but it's really like looking for what they are already doing and really tapping on that to help create an immersive way where it's a successful event for them. And to cite some of the data is like, we have two, it's speaking about just one event. Okay, we have 2.2 million like gaming related playlists on Spotify, and it saw the potential to really reach younger generation of music fans with the launch of the game experience. For example, we did something, the virtual experience on Roblox, and more than 80% of people in the US really play games. And Gen Z gamers were averaging about 11 to 13 hours per week engaging with their favorite titles. So that we create K Park in Spotify Island, which is an island on Roblox, and which is like we get into the metaverse realm now, and how it can explore worlds that focus on music and fandoms. So fandom is all like a big part of Gen Z culture. So really, like to track back, this is what um, I try to do, and I always do, putting that in mind, data, and also rooting in creating a custom experience for the economy.
Great. That was a great perspective, and you put it under a whole scope, which is really cool. So thanks for that, and very interesting. Yeah, storytelling, and it's great to have you on as well because you have that design and branding background. Well, Stasia has that as well, but she also worked or works in AV and things like that. So what are your takes on pop up immersive experiences, Stasia, and kind of what is it to you?
So I've worked in the past few years a lot in gaming and in VR, and I think one thing you see with pop-up immersive experiences is this idea of gamification of narrative and gamification of storylines. So I think as media consumers, we're moving away from this two-dimensional idea and two-dimensional model of consuming media. We're getting smarter, we're getting more engaged. Younger generations are growing up with things like Roblox and Fortnite, and they're engaging with musicians, they're engaging with their friends in a completely new ways. And we can't keep giving fans and giving audiences the same types of experiences we've always given them when there's a whole new generation coming up, which it has much more, in a way, refined digital taste and has a much deeper understanding of technology. So we want to provide experiences that allow audiences to be engaged, that allow them to be the protagonist of the narrative. They want to feel challenged, they want to feel inspired, they want to feel stimulated and try something new. And the best way to really engage them is to engage all of their senses. So as Rainey mentioned, we're using things like haptic technology where we don't just tell a story on a screen anymore, we're incorporating immersive audio where you walk into a space, and now instead of the sound coming at you from the speakers at the front of the stage, the sound can come up behind you and surprise you and make you turn around, and we can direct our audiences and we can direct their attention and move the story along through all of these cues. So similarly to if you are, say, in a game world and you're playing a video game and you're moving along and you hear something behind you, you're going to turn around and you're going to look. But we can do that now in spaces, in physical installations. And we do that with audio cues, with lighting cues, video cues, but we can also do that with more unexpected tools such as heat or rain, anything that's going to sort of create sensorial experiences. And one thing I'm really excited about is the incorporation of taste. So we are starting to see as well pop-up dining experiences. There are some restaurants that are exploring how we can sort of change your experience in that way. Um, Pop-ups specifically are obviously an experience that is going to last for a shorter period of time than an installation based immersive experience. An installation based experience can have very complex mechanical parts. It could be something more like you'd see at a Disney theme park. Whereas a pop up is going to be something that's going to show up in a space, perhaps somewhat unexpectedly. Perhaps it's something associated with an album launch or a brand launch or a special event, and it's often themed, and it kind of allows creators to experiment, to surprise audiences. One good example that happened recently in London was the Witcher premiere at Outernet, where they created a maze where you could kind of go in and go through the maze in this space, which incorporated LED walls and immersive audio and all of these kind of different um, experiences for the audience, in addition to what you would find at a traditional premiere. So I would say that the main um, point of an immersive experience is sort of to suspend disbelief and integrate you deeper into the narrative.
Yep. Yeah, and then Stasia, to add on to that too, I think B2C pop up experiences compared to B2B experiences are different in the sense that B2C is a few steps ahead, really, and B2B is we can always do better on that aspect of it. So one of the big things too, like speaking about like creating a short pop up experiences, one of the things that I was trying to drive in the concept part is the idea of FOMO. Like, how do you make people come to the booth with an act of surprise, or how do you get them to want to share it on social media, like putting on TikTok, for example? It's like, this is the best event I've been to, oh, because there's like this um, secret door, for example, or a huge giant mascot of your brand that's outside that really attracts how people is. And that's the FOMO aspect of short-term pop-up events that has been really successful to get engagement and to get people to know the brand. So I totally agree with that.
On the B2B, B2C point, I think one thing, it is a bit further behind with B2B pop-ups. However, we are starting to see a lot of advertising clients and, for example, architecture firms. There are, incredible uses when you start to combine gaming technology with LED installation, and you can now start to either use an LED screen or a VR headset or an XR headset, and you can demo new products for clients. Or partners. You can show your car in an XR headset. You can show architectural drafts in a fly through. And you can preview so much of this content before it actually exists in the real world. So a big part of that is going to be also the perpetuation of digital twins, which I'm sure everyone has heard about, which is becoming a major part of this business.
That's interesting. Yeah, and when it comes to the AV components behind, pop-up immersive experiences or just diving into that whole world, what kind of things you consider? Because I know you have experience, working with AV teams and building these experiences. Could you give maybe an example of when you uh, kind of implemented, AV components and worked with other teams on a project like this?
Absolutely. So, um, this is a place where broadcast technology really kind of meets more traditional event technology. So, if you're broadcasting a sports game, you are using very expensive, very advanced broadcast equipment. You're running multiple servers, multiple machines. You have very complex video data that's streaming, and you have many people behind the scenes who are organizing all of this in server rooms, in mobile trucks, and um, as we move that direction, what you're seeing is the need for things like pop-up server rooms. I mean, where are you going to store your computers? How are you going to keep them cool? Um, how are you going to power them? So, if you are coming into a site, these are all things that you have to consider, as well as of course, networking data, um, and hyper kind of fast internet, of course.
Yeah, it's a big one. If you have low speed internet, then definitely things can happen with that. So that's great points. Thank you. That's great. So when it comes to like the impact of these kind of experiences, like how would you make an impact? And I know we kind of talked about this a bit, but let's expand that. So we can start with Rainy. Like, how do you make these impactful for the consumer, when they're attending these type of events?
Um, that's a really good question. And the way I always see it is like from the brand perspective is to create what's the outcome that we are looking for. And for a big part of the projects at Spotify is always to create almost like a gift to consumers that are coming to the event space, for example, for B2C events, and to create that kind of a visually stimulating like narrative for them to be engaged in. So back on the thing that I talked about for Spotify House. So a big part of it is getting them like earlier access to the space or having like merges, VIP access, or a way that it's just exclusively for the consumers that are in the space. I think that exclusivity for an event like a pop-up event is really crucial because you go back to the idea of like FOMO, you go back to the idea of like, oh, this is personalized for me as a consumer. That's a very big hit on creating that kind of experience spaces. And also having almost like a playground for them uh, in in the space they're going to. So, for example, in one case, I did worked on a wrapped party in 2023, last year, end of last year. So every year there's a Spotify throw a party for consumers and fans and VIPs as well. So in that situation, we created a theme. There's like a carnival, so we have like claw grabbers, Ferris, a mini Ferris wheel, those like carnival games that you play back when you're a kid. So and like shooting that some cans, and then you get like a big teddy bear as your gift. And we create this kind of experience in LA last year, and that includes getting rentals from real carnival vendors, renting it for a day, and creating a photo wall full of purple soft toys because we wanted them to be immersed into that. And then people love that. People love taking photos behind in front of the wall of soft toys. And then at the end of the day, the wall is like being dismantled, right? And then all the soft toys actually goes into like our kids foundation that we donate to, um, in that sense. And so there's it's to create this kind of touch points coming from design and concept perspective, and that gets the engagement, gets the fun part of why people are here, and then they remember that as top of mind um, when they come and experience the event because they are in as a creator rather than a consumer. If that makes sense. So that's my take.
Very cool. That's great. Let's start with, let's go ahead. Did have someone just raise a question? Let's see if they get back with us.
I'll
But
just add
yeah,
one thing on that real quick, which is I think our current audiences are also expecting or engaged by a certain degree of customization or personalization. I think we have a lot of ways of integrating customer data into their experience and creating moments that are unique and special to them using things like branching narratives or collecting, data or surveys in advance. And that really engages people on a whole different level.
great point. That's definitely great stuff. So when it comes to the, I guess you could say the process behind um, the the technical process and then also the design process. What kind of maybe obstacles have you guys both dealt with when it comes to building these pop up immersive experiences? What are some obstacles and challenges that we can tell our audience? Um, something you guys both learned from when building these type of events.
I can definitely start. So, last summer I did a pop up immersive experience at Glastonbury, and obviously there is power and there is fiber on site, but I think uh, if you're not getting access to these things in a timely enough manner, it can really set you back. So we got out there and, we're in a shipping container and sort of in the middle of a field and actually ended up, held back a bit on our installation due to delays with power and fiber. And I think this is a fairly common infrastructure issue where you do have all of these sometimes smaller pop-up experiences going in or immersive activations, which still require the same amount of infrastructure as what would normally go into a larger stage or a much larger area. So that's one thing to look out for and ensure is planned well in advance with the event organizers, especially if you're in a remote location such as a music festival.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Speaking about cons, there's like obstacles. I know there's so much that could go wrong. Anything that could go wrong could have gone wrong in an event on the day of. So for me, when I'm working with Design Never Sleeps, my company, we always make sure that we started our alignment with the client like way early in advance, including mood boards, sketches, to make sure that if we're not aligned, that's good, that's fine. But to get to a point where we have a conversation, like, okay, this is what I think in a KPI of a place should be like. And then at the same time, a client will always have like, oh no, this is what we think it should be like. And at the same time, we both like have to know what we don't know and to create the best um, event pop-up experience. You have to work backwards on what you want to achieve and how do you get there from the beginning part of it, which is sketches and mood boards. So that's always what I did, like to create a very good communication and collaborative effort with the client for problem solving. And that also comes from my experience of working with Spotify and previous events company that I worked with in terms of the design side of things. Um, and also, how do we foresee if we can't get this, for example, this carnival rental vendor? Like, is there any um, like any like backup plan to go with that, and that comes with that too. And also like setting clearer expectations, I think, from both parties, with the production company, the timing and the event, the smoother experience, and to really streamline our communication with them. And creative rounds, I think one thing about design for experience and events is that I think a lot of designers jump into doing the design really quick before a real concept or a strong rooted concept is already set. So that comes from being able to do just small things, sketches, and letting you know what's happening, to educating the client on this is the best way to do it and how do you see it happening. It's always good to say no and to say like, okay, this is ridiculous, but it's good. Ridiculous is great in the beginning because that sets expectations, and you throw in like crazier ideas, and that could be a hit. And yeah, so before we go into even designing things, is just to create wireframe of how we plan to do it so people can come in and chip in and collaborative way before things are set in stone. That makes sense.
Following up on what you said, Rainey, about anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I think I would second that 100% and say there are a couple of things that you can do to be prepared in that situation. You always want a backup of your backup, and that is going to be both in terms of your hardware. If you are planning out a system, you want to make sure, of course, you have backup servers, you have backups of any of your major hardware components. You always want redundancy in your system. Secondly, you want backups of your content. You want video renders in case you run into any issues with real time processing or streaming. And you also want to be flexible. You want to ensure that you're using the right tool for the job. That might mean that you design something, you have a plan, and then you come down to the wire and you're ready to integrate and launch your project. And the vendors that you're working with prefer to use a different software. They want to, say, stream it with a different program. They want to render it out differently. Be open to using the best tool for the job, even if it's not something that you're familiar with. Trust the experts, because you definitely can't understand every aspect of this industry. It's each specialization is very complex, and definitely trust your team that you're working with to come up with solutions, and don't be afraid to call in favors if you need to. When you get down to the wire like that, there's always somebody at another company or another part of the industry who's been there, who's been through it. And I've found the industry to be incredibly supportive. If you do need to reach out to your hardware suppliers, if you need to reach out to your software suppliers, they always have technical teams on standby who can help out and provide help over the phone.
Great. You guys brought up some great points. Anything else to add, Rainey, on that?
No, I think Sasha really like summarize everything, and I think also is like one last thing is to about baking the right ingredients too. I mean, I just have like points that's just coming out of my head. Baking with the right ingredients, like asking a lot of whys, like why do you need one booth design instead of like why do you need five instead of three? Like, is there a reason why you need the other extra two? Like, it's all asking, but it comes from what is the outcome that you want to get there. Maybe the budget can be well spent with like three booths design and like two other, digital banners, for example. And that helps to also, consolidate the budget and make it as effective as a marketing budget as possible for events.
Great. You
That's
guys
all.
both dropped the mic on those answers, so it sounds great. Great stuff. When it comes to adding on to that, the technologies and tools, are you guys seeing any types of trends right now when it comes to like technology or design? best practices in these pop-up immersive experiences? Anything you guys have noticed currently that's kind of standing out to you? We can start with Stasia on this one.
One thing I'm really excited about at the moment are digital twins. I've been working quite a bit in virtual production the past couple of years, and I think we've seen a number of different phrases go through hype cycles in this industry, and digital twins are kind of coming back around at this point where they were popular a couple of years ago. Everybody got very excited and then kind of went away and did their homework, did their development. And I'm starting to see them used in a lot of different scenarios across multiple industries. And I think it's a wonderful, wonderful tool to be able to previs or tech viz an area ahead of its creation, and it's just providing so much more detail and information for creatives, for technicians, for stakeholders to be able to sign things off much earlier with much more clarity and detail than we've ever had before.
Great to hear. Yeah, I've heard that the chat about digital twins. It's amazing too that there's so many different components under digital twins. I mean, from I had on a previous interview, I had Sharath Abraham, and he talked about just using digital twins in all types of different formats. It's incredible to me. So great stuff. Rainey, we're gonna add something to that.
Yeah, sure. For me, what's really exciting too is the use of AI for or digitally for events. So as a designer, as a creative, AI always have like, okay, is that gonna solve problems? But I think for the value of the designer actually went up exponentially due to AI because it gives designers more time to creatively solve things that are unique in many different ways and not just during the show, but pre, post, during of the event space, and it just helps creatives to even be more creative in making the best event spaces. And that also goes into one other thing that I'm super excited about is like the metaverse and also like Web3. How do we create a physical experience, like event experience, but and also how do we leverage that into the virtual space, like Roblox, right? One example will be that. But how do we expand that? How do we make a brand presence stronger through digitally? Any brand that hasn't explored into the digital world, how do we make them um, more popular, well known in the digital space? So that's something I'm super excited about. How traditional both brands could go into the digital world.
Great stuff. Thank you both. Very
I've
exciting.
got one more to add to that.
Yeah.
Something I've just something I've heard about recently that I'm quite excited about is authentication and blockchain for metaverse assets. So if you start looking at digital twins, digital cities, 3D scans, nerfs, how do we prove these things are authentic? Um, there are a lot of conversations happening around this right now, and there are many different possible solutions. One of them being, for example, using blockchain to authenticate. So there's only one. There's this one scan which this company has done and has been authorized, which can be proven, which can be verified through the European Space Agency, for example, satellite footage, these kinds of things. So I think on the legal side of things, that's coming up quite quickly. We'll be seeing some news around that.
Nice. That's really exciting too. Yeah, I've heard you mentioned nerfs. This is the that type of video format, correct? Because I know we've discussed.
So I'm not an expert, but I can briefly say photogrammetry would be when you go around and you're capturing either an object or a building through a number of different photos, which a computer is then kind of, or an artist is, basically compiling all together. And the result that you're getting has quite a lot of issues and needs quite a lot of cleanup, basically. What you have with a nerf is a computer learning program which is able to recognize things like reflection and transparency, and has used basically machine learning to recognize lots of other, say, a fluffy animal, and it's going to know that's a cat. Because it knows what a cat is, and then is able to take your cat and make it three-dimensional. So, whereas in photogrammetry, you'd be able to perhaps look around a space, with a nerve, you can now kind of fly around the room and look at it from all different angles from a single capture.
There we go, 3D cats. That sounds great. No, but that's amazing to hear. And people, when I first started hearing that buzzword, I was like, okay, it's not the toy, everyone used to buy as a kid. No, the guys, this is different. Really, really good stuff. So going into the really big question here, I know there's so many different types of immersive experiences with pop up, and it's evolving. So what are some things, let's say 10 years from now, you guys will see evolving in this event space and in this certain industry of like pop-up immersive experiences and other types of events that are similar to it?
Well, I can start
We can
first.
start with Raymond if you want.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think I also mentioned that earlier, and I continue to represent that as part of what I really see in the next 10 years. I think AI is gonna have a lot of help and create a pivotal part of our creative process. That includes, like not just Chat GPT or Mid Journey, but there will be more of this kind of technology coming up, and how we can leverage that as well. So that's something that I'm really looking for the next 10 years for events. And I think you can also offer assistance and on brands, like how do you, for all there's a way that you can automate or create creative ideas from AI, but with the help of us or everyone in this event field, we are able to leverage that and just make it even better. And with the data that's collected from AI, we are working in, at this point, I feel like we are working on, like, we had to do our research and like what's the data out there. But in the next 10 years, if those data are, I mean talking about breach of privacy, but that's a topic for another day. But if we're able to have more of this data where you can use it to leverage for your own brands and to create even better experiences, that's what I am looking for and very excited for in the next 10 years.
Great stuff. Yeah, it's interesting to add on to that really quick how there's AI has been the discussion, right, for, I mean, years, but it's very heavily this year, especially when ChatGPT was released. Like the idea of AI like taking over things and kind of the iRobots kind of situation. But I think there's a lot of positive to it of learning how to use it. You mentioned that with design, and it's great. I've done design stuff, and I still do, and it's just using that as a tool, right? And now you see big companies that are now looking for AI managers, people how to using AI to help improve projects and the process and the workflows at companies and things like that. So it's great to see, yeah, using it as a tool and resource is a big thing. So it's some good points you mentioned. Stasia, what is your fortune telling with immersive experiences? What kind of things do you have in mind that you'll see evolve in the next 10 years?
Well, as you might have heard this kind of new buzzword already. It's been going around. We're going to see an integration between the digital and physical worlds. This is called phygital. We're seeing things where we have augmented reality being used in many different kinds of installations, and we are definitely giving customers and audiences more opportunity to use their own devices to participate. We will see, I think, more mixed reality, more extended reality. VR headsets never really took off, but I think mixed reality headsets will. And on another point, I've seen a lot of digital waste is an interesting term I've come across recently, where you have media companies, content companies who are creating assets which are maybe used one time, but companies are able to take those assets and reuse them, repurpose them across many other types of media and many other aspects of their business.
That's a great point. I mean, I think we've talked about this in the past, you and I, about just like repurposing content. There's so many ways you can repurpose content, even from the content creator aspect to creating designs and content for these types of experiences. So that digital waste word was great, and then it's also great the other thing you mentioned as well, which is exciting. Um, any so going to the tips and tricks, I guess you could say, for someone who was interested in building a pop-up immersive experience, or they want to work with a team to build an experience for their company, or they're an AV company, and they're listening to this and they're interested in working with a brand and offering their services. What kind of uh, tips and advice would you give, these type of industry leaders or companies that would want to get into this type of event?
I could start with that one.
Yeah.
Um, I'd say one thing I've seen at a couple of spots around London, for example, at Outernet, sometimes you have um, bigger companies who are coming in who have someone internally working on a product launch, and they might not understand all of the different ways you can use technology to tell your story. So I think you do want to bring in other teams who might be into the creative process, because when you begin to write your narrative in consideration of the technology that's available to you, you're able to give your audience a much richer experience. And sometimes we just simply don't know what we don't know. And there are so many new tools out there that are very exciting. So I'd say if you are interested in immersive pop up experiences, bring on a contractor, talk to someone who's done it before, ask them what's possible at the very beginning before you even, conceptualize your story.
Exactly. Yeah, I really want to add on to that too. What Stasia just mentioned, like you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of it from the clients for Design Never Sleeps is to get a house, get a like a studio, not a house, to really who really understands about what your audience is looking for. For example, if you're going for Gen Z, which this is what we're specializing in, which is you have to understand what are they consuming now compared to what I am, for example, I'm a millennial, like in my mid 30s, like consuming now as our content. And that includes working with uh, could be TikTok that you want to just put it on, or memes. That what's the meme culture out there? What is the top things they're searching for? So, for example, on that note, I recently just created a campaign too. A couple days ago, just launched it. It's called Bummer Summer, and that is from the data that is about discovering the number one search term globally for our listeners from 18 to 24 years old is the word sad. They're actually searching for the word sad on the platform. So it's understanding, more than any other generation. And it's understanding like why are they searching for that? Are they like really sad, or it's just a way of them being more emotionally tuned to like being in the fields, and how does being in the fields helps to create an experience that we that could be successful for them, that they can feel like, oh, I'm being seen, I'm being related to. So a lot of it is like getting a company that really talks with them, not talk at them. And And also, that's how you get your education as a client, as a brand, and really hone in on that, and come up with some creative ideas around that realm. um, and yeah, that's usually how it it goes.
What are some things you look forward to, when it comes to these types of experiences? And do you see it kind of changing more into permanent experiences like we talked about earlier with live events, or do you see it evolving more into the virtual uh, space more with immersive experiences? So what is your take on that?
Uh, I can go first. Yeah, I actually do think that life experiences and physical experience would never go away, just because we are all in like, after the pandemic situation, everyone is doing like virtual worlds, metaverse. Yes, it would still be going on. However, I do think that the value of being in person, where everyone's coming together, where you get to experience that, has a bigger memorable take than virtual. So I do see a lot of value in that happening, and it will still be something that adds value on the brand, creating top of mind, and I will always be thinking of that too.
Great stuff. Thank you. Anything else to add, Saskia?
Sure. I think you're seeing it go both directions. I think you're seeing the physical world embrace the digital world. You're seeing the digital world embrace the physical world. I can look at great examples in the world of concert touring, where you have major, international artists who go on a stadium tour, and now one of those stops is a show in Fortnite. So you go, you play every major city in the world, and then you play your digital show in Fortnite, and that's a major tour stop, and your audience is going to be as big or bigger than at any one of these stadiums that you're going to see out in the world. You see a lot of major music festivals being broadcast virtually. There are now um, digital twin music venues where you have a concert that's happening both in somewhere in the metaverse and in real life, and the people in the venue can see the people in the digital world, and the people in the digital world can interact with those in the physical world. And you've got MSG Sphere, obviously, recently making lots of news. There are going to be more than one of those. Those are going to be around the world. They're going to be networked together. And I think you're going to see a lot more of this kind of globally networked physical venues, which do have digital components to them. And I don't think we know yet how we're going to use all of these.
Actually, I totally agree with you, Stasia, on that note too. I know we're like bouncing ideas, but it's true because Spotify Island, the one I was working on in Roblox. So we have two different universe now. There's K Park for K-pop fans, and there's like hip hop for hip hop fans, and there's a virtual concert where we get for K Park we get Sunmi, which is a K-pop artist, to perform virtually for the consumers on platform, the users on platform. And there's also like merch, which is digital merch, where if any of you have children playing Roblox, one of their big thing is like getting credits. You buying the credits for them on Roblox to purchase merch. So that's also a very interesting field to get into, creating digital items for users to have on their in-game person. And yeah, so on that note, yeah, that's a very big component as well.
Certainly, these digital brand partnerships are just as valid as physical ones. And if you're missing that, you're missing a huge segment of the market. And especially in younger generations, there have been studies done. They value physical assets sometimes less than digital assets. And they're willing to pay that in game money and value that in game currency sometimes more than in the physical world. So we have to cater to that type of consumer moving forward.
Yep.
Great points, guys. Well, thank you guys both so much for joining me today. I can't believe it's been an hour. Time flies by. So we had talked about a lot of great conversations here, and it was great learning from both of you. And I hope the audience enjoyed it as well. And if we don't have any more questions, I guess we'll do a goodbye for now. But we'll love to do this again. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much.